Hey, welcome to Clarksville Vibe the show where we tell the stories about the people who live in Clarksville, Tennessee that make this place the greatest place to live in America. I'm really excited about today's guest and episode. Once again, I'm your host, Kevin Kennedy Jr., a local small business leader here in town, a Clarksville native. Grew up on a small horse farm here. I was the fifth generation that grew up there, and so I've got a lot of roots deeply connected in our Clarksville community, and I'm really happy and proud to just have this opportunity to share this positive energy about what's going on in Clarksville and our local community and talk to the people in every little pocket of our community who are making a positive difference and making a really positive impact all across Clarksville. Today's guest is a great friend of mine. I've been really excited to bring her on the show. She is one of the first people that I ever pitched this idea to, and I thought to myself, if she says go for it, then I'm definitely going to go for it. And we met, I think, around 2007 or so, have been friends for almost 15 years. We share an underlying connection in the dental community. She's a local orthodontist. And what I am so eager to share with you is her story of being originally from the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area and choosing Clarksville as home and being what I consider the epitome of someone who has just embraced everything Clarksville, thrown herself and her husband and her family into everything that is positive going on and creating a lot of positive energy. She's one of the most humble people I know. Frankly, she is someone that didn't send me a bio because she underwhelms herself, but she's constantly impressing everyone. She is Candice Coleman. She is owner of About Faces and Braces. She's an orthodontist here in town. Candice, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and when we say good friends, we're great friends.
Absolutely.
And have been for a long time. So I'm really excited about this. We'll throw it out there. Disclaimer wise, like dental community, we're all great friends. You are the first dentist that I've had on the show, and I've kind of had this little bit of hesitancy about bringing somebody on because naturally there's some like, oh, why did she get asked or that? In reality, for everyone who's listening or watching, we're actually all really great friends.
It's a good community to be a part of.
It's a great community to be in. We really don't have this spirit of competition. It's really just cheering each other on from the sidelines and wishing nothing but the best for ourselves, each other, their practices. And so anyways, thanks for jumping on the show. Really glad to get to tell your story, and hopefully we'll have some fun along the way. But I do have a question to ask first. I think you know a mutual friend of ours, Megan Ellis. You're probably one of the closest people to me that I've met. And so we were laughing about a week ago that she said, why did you name the show Clarksville Vibe? And I think what she was saying was like, I'm kind of like the least vibe person that there is. So when I pitched you the idea of this podcast, I want to know what was your thought when I said Clarksville Vibe? Was it like, oh, he cannot pull that off? He can't do it. It's not in his system. Or what was your reaction to it?
I use that word so often that I honestly didn't even think twice about it.
But it does not describe me. So
no,
I think that's what
you are not vibey.
That's exactly what Megan was saying. Oh man! So when you get friends together, the stories start to come out. Yeah.
Well, at least we can be honest with each other, right?
Behind the curtains, that's not necessarily who I am, but I am excited about telling the vibe of Clarksville, multi-generational across all pockets of our community, and one of the things when I first kind of pitched you this idea was I wanted to get your opinion as someone who didn't grow up here, didn't really have any connections here, but just moved here, and you plugged in fully into this community and have really just taken everything that Clarksville has to bring and integrated into your family's life, and then also added value in lots of ways. But I do think it's fun to hear the story sometimes of from Seattle to Memphis to Clarksville. How did that actually come about?
Yeah, so I grew up out west, and I went to college in Oregon, worked for an orthodontist there. And when I was looking for where to apply to dental school, I knew I wanted to eventually probably do ortho. He said, you should try Tennessee. He went to school there, dental school.
I did not know that
And he
story.
said, it's the hidden gem of the South. So I thought, why not? It was totally outside my comfort zone, but I didn't really have any other ties to any other school. So I moved out to Memphis and established residency, applied to school, interviewed all over, but I loved Memphis. I loved the vibe of the South. People saying fixin' and y'all. I mean, that really stuck out to me. It was totally different than out west.
Right.
my intention was to do my time in school and eventually go back out there somewhere out west. But I met my husband in dental school, who is a Tennessee boy through and through from Franklin. And we did our residencies in Tennessee. Yeah. And then when it was getting time to figure out where we wanted to go, we really didn't know. We looked everywhere from East Coast to West Coast. We had differing opinions on weather and culture. And so we traveled to a lot of places and met with a lot of people. And it was kind of getting down to the wire. We had been to some places that one of us felt a connection, but not both of us. And so, dentistry is interesting because there's a lot of different paths you can take. You can join big practices, group practices. You can start your own practice. You can buy a practice and the owner leaves. So we didn't even really know what we wanted at that point. So we kind of explored every open door that there was, which was somewhat overwhelming. And one of my residency instructors, like I said, kind of in the last hour said, have you ever considered living in Tennessee? And I was like, absolutely not. It's far too humid. That was my whole thing. I could not get out of the humidity thing.
7 years was enough.
That's exactly right. I've been sweating in Memphis for all this time. And he said, I've got this, friend in Clarksville who's looking to bring somebody on. I think you guys would get along. You should just go check it out. So I pitched the idea to Burton, and he was like, Clarksville. Even being from Franklin, he'd been there one time, knew very little about it. So we came up to Clarksville. I met Sean, who's now my partner. We connected really well. We trained in the same place. We had a lot of similarities. And then we took a drive down Warfield, and it was like springtime, and it was green, which is olive green. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, tree hugger. It was beautiful. And then we had lunch at Miss Lucille's, and I don't know what it was about that whole day. It was like literally 24 hours of us being there. We both looked at each other and just said, this feels like home. I don't know what it was. It was the vibe, I guess.
That's amazing.
And that was kind of what started our journey.
Yeah. Because at that time, I think I had just moved here a year. I'd been here, not even a year, moved back home or was coming back home. I can't remember the timeline exactly. But it was very much a shock to me because, I thought the two of you would end up in some major metro area, right? That's just kind of it. And thought, Clarksville?
You weren't the only one.
I wonder if she's going to like it, right?
Right.
Because it didn't necessarily match the box that I had for you.
Yeah.
And not that mattered at all. But we had been, pretty good friends for 7 years or so. And so I was super excited to have you as a dental colleague here in the community because I knew what value you would bring to the kids, the teenagers, and the adults who are receiving orthodontic care. But I wasn't sure how that would work, how you would feel here. Is it big enough? Does it have the amenities that you thought? Because you previously lived in Seattle and then Memphis, and it's like this descending triangle of size. But I feel like from the very moment you got here, you just kind of embraced the community. And one of the things you mentioned to me was, never underestimating the power of an invitation, right? Mm-hmm. And so you told me it's like we just started getting invited to stuff and we just said yes, and that's how the story went. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that time, especially in the framework of when you're moving into this town, knowing no one or knowing one or most unfortunately for you, I might have been the only person that you knew when you moved to town. But how did that feel kind of getting integrated into the community?
Sure. We knew 3 people. You were our favorite, though.
Well, yeah, sure.
You were the one person that came and helped Burton move a box.
I did move some furniture for you. That is true.
You were our lone friend. But anytime you move somewhere new, you have to be intentional about it. You can't just show up in the neighborhood and then you get invited to people's homes or whatever. And that can be somewhat intimidating for people. My husband is a little bit of an introvert. I'm an extrovert. But even for me, walking into a room of people I don't know can be scary. Yeah. And so we actually had a friend that was in Memphis doing hygiene school at the time who was here. Her dad is a retired orthodontist. And
it's Steve Wallace.
Mm-hmm, yep. So she connected me with her dad. And he took me out to lunch, actually, and told me he hadn't practiced orthodontics in a while, but he said, you will love Clarksville. Yeah. These people are the best. They're the best patients to have. You've picked the right place. This was cool. The first 2 weeks I was here. So I'm like, whew, we made a good decision.
What a blessing. Yeah. Because when I was growing up here, let's say millennials and above, there were really kind of 2 orthodontists, right? There was Jerry Carr and there was Steve Wallace of my generation. Of course, Sean's dad practiced here a little bit as well. But orthodontists, there's not a ton of them. And so you do get to be a really kind of central part of the community. And so I found that story to be really cool, that Dr. Wallace reached out to you and kind of welcomed you in from right when you got here.
And I still see people that, were his patients, I'm like, are you wearing your retainer? Because I still know him. I'll let him know.
Yeah, sure enough. You I see people's kids and they feel like I should know who their dentist was as a kid, right?
Right.
It's like, I hear that story a lot,
Yep.
Oh, you went to so-and-so. Great. Yeah, your kid's here now.
Right. Well, the history of that's kind of cool because they made a big impact on the community and, still do just because people remember that,
Sure.
that hopefully they touch a lot of lives, even if it's just fixing teeth.
Yeah.
But
was there a time or two where you remember like, this invite from this person, like, oh, that actually kind of made this feel like home, or this was something memorable now because it's been 10 years, right? That you remember like, oh, that was a special time where I kind of got to feel integrated.
Well, the first event, I guess, that we went to was a fundraiser party for the Customs House Museum.
Nice.
It was Steve Wallace's daughter that gave us the tickets. She had extras, and we knew 0 people because she didn't attend. So we literally
she gave you the tickets and like,
she
here
was
you go.
Not here. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And so I'm like clutching Burton's hand, walking in. I think it was at Katie Olita's house. It was like an outdoor shrimp boil, and we walked in and just kind of, hello. I'm sure people were like, who are these strangers? But it was a really cool group of people. We ended up, connecting with people who are now some of our best friends. Yeah. Katie's dad is also a dentist, so we got to make that connection. I think that was the first time we met Jim and Mary Durrett, and Jim's passion for the city and his excitement for it. It kind of got us jazzed up of like, there are people here that love Clarksville, that are from here, that have roots here. And I remember leaving that feeling like, okay, these may not be our people, but we're going to find our people here. And sure enough, some of those friends from that first party are still people that we run into every day.
Yeah. Because those are, those events, the fundraiser events, that's kind of old Clarksville, right? It's not a lot of people that just have the courage to do like you and Burton did and just walk up into that group. And, it's everyone's connected to another attendee in a random way, that they went to school together, or it's their niece, their cousin, or, that's their business partner or whatever it is. But what I have heard consistently, both, from you and from other people, is even though those events might be very close knit, most people are open-minded to people that move here into Clarksville and really want to call Clarksville home, about integrating them into what we're doing here as a community. And I know that you and Burton, I think, have both kind of gone through Leadership Clarksville. You've been involved in Rotary. You've done all kinds of things that, have just added on to the value of what we have as a community. But I'm really grateful for people who invited you and who made you feel welcome, because you brought such amazing gifts to our community, and we wouldn't have had the chance to experience those if someone didn't invite. So it's kind of like, even you saying that to me is a little bit of a challenge of like, all right, keep inviting. You never know what's going to come from it. You never know who's really going to want to call this place home and really kind of throw themselves fully into it.
And accepting an invite, again, can be somewhat intimidating. But I will say that Clarksville is a really interesting town in the sense that, those people at the fundraiser, I'll see them on the ball field or at church. It's a small enough town. I mean, it is a sprawling city. But I think that it's easy to make connections because you see familiar faces in different pockets of the city, which is really cool. And that makes it, I think, easy to get plugged in. Yes. Even if all you do is accept that first invite, it trickles down and makes those connections.
That's it. Yeah. Well, we're actually going to name this episode #ILoveClarksville, right? I said, a couple of years ago, I was like, that's totally your nickname. That's what I'm going to call you. Because I think, number one, it was so surprising to me that you loved this city. It wasn't when you came here of like, oh, I love my practice and I'm okay living here. And it wasn't, it just is what it is. We're looking for our next opportunity. Like from the very beginning, it was #ILoveClarksville, and you almost kind of encouraged me to find more joy in the city. But I'm curious, as someone who just kind of like moved here, things that were amazing to you were like, oh yeah, like that's just Civitan Park. Like I played little league there. Like what's so cool about that? But what were some of the things where you was like, no, this is awesome. You guys really underestimate this aspect of your town.
Oh gosh, where do I start?
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm saying. Because most people you ask like, oh, Clarksville's lame. There's nothing to do. And I think that has dramatically changed.
Absolutely.
But for the people who are lifelong Clarksvillians, if you can put on the lens of thinking of like what was the predominant narrative 10 to 15 years ago, it was almost like, what is there here?
Yeah.
Like everything, all the excitement, entertainment, family enjoyment is done outside of town. And then here you come and you totally like bursted my bubble. And it's just like, this place is really, really cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the funny things that someone told me when we first moved here, again, this is a while ago, is one of the best things about Clarksville is it's so close to Nashville. You can go to Nashville and do all the things you want to do. And we never went to Nashville. We're like, there's too many things to do in Clarksville, you know? And when we first started, and home is what you make it, right? If you're going to live somewhere and
better say that
roots
again.
somewhere,
home is what you make it.
It really is.
It
Whether
really
it be for a couple of years or you're going to be here forever, you can either choose to find the amazing things or just be miserable. So we kind of jumped in and said, here we are, and we visited one time and we committed, so we're just going to love it. But I know the outdoor stuff. I mean, Rotary Park, the Greenway, the river. I mean, we took our kids and walked down the river and seeing the barges. I mean, I know if you've lived here, that's not cool anymore. But Liberty Park and like I said, we have a special place in our heart for the whole Miss Lucille's, and what that's become now is amazing. There's so much like family friendly activities. When I first thought I knew what I wanted in a community, it was a Target and a Starbucks. If I can have those two things, I will survive. I don't know that I've been to either one of those in years. My priorities have changed, and it was really the small stuff, the Johnny's Big Burger, going to an APSU game. My kids have gotten to go to college sporting events that those are memories they'll have forever. So that there's so many things to do. I remember in Leadership Clarksville, actually, I forget who it was. It was someone with Parks and Rec. He said, I will challenge anyone who says there's nothing to do in Clarksville, because, he's on Parks and Rec, so he knows what they're planning. And it's so true. I mean, there's an endless amount of activities for all different, ages and interests. So that was kind of what it was like drinking from a fire hydrant when we first got here, like trying to do all the things and see all the things, and every one of them I loved. So that's where, the hashtag, when I first started hashtagging it, I think there's like a Clarksville, Maryland. And so there was like no hashtag I love Clarksville in Tennessee. So I was all my pictures were getting lumped in with like somewhere out east. And now, actually recently looked at it because you brought it up, there are thousands that are Clarksville, Tennessee.
See, you're a pioneer.
Or there's just
I've known it for a
long
time. No, you started it. I'm going to call it what it is. Like, it's funny you bring up the river, because this season, Adonia finds that river, that Christmas lights along the river, such a special tradition for our family. And I got down there and I was like a little Scrooge McScroogey, right, about it. And I was like, seriously, what are we doing walking down here with these lights? But my girls love it.
They love it.
And it's a part of their tradition. And so it's like, I had to like dial that back and like just be present.
I mean, that light tunnel, I have a family photo for the last 8 years in that light tunnel.
We spent a good amount of time in that light tunnel.
Same.
Yeah, just making it happen. Well, part of the reason why I started this podcast was a lot of what you shared. I think there are people that just fully embrace Clarksville as a neat town. It's got so much potential, and it's realizing that potential. But quickly with that conversation is the people of this town are really what makes it special. And that's why we're doing the podcast. Is our mission on the podcast is to tell the stories of the people. If we're going to call this the best place to live in America, and it's because of the people, let's hear their stories. And you're one of those people. But I know integrating into this community, you've gotten to meet a lot of people. And for someone who's a native, I feel like I've got pretty good roots here, and I know a lot of people. You probably know just about as many as I do. And I think that's a testament to your just kind of go-getter attitude and kind of, fully embracing the community. But who are a few people that you felt like really encouraged you in your first couple years of making this place like feel like home?
So, I mean, I've already mentioned it before, but, Trent and Dana Knott, they were some of the first folks that we met here. I mean, their eyes just sparkle when they talk about Clarksville. So they really got us excited about being here, and their passion for the city. My partner Sean, who has some roots in Clarksville, he really encouraged me kind of professionally. I have a group of
which, can we just go ahead and admit right now that you have definitely like exceeded the orthodontic ability in that practice. It's like, Sean, go ahead and you like stay in your lane. Like, you have taken over Clarksville for your practice.
Clarksville is my happy place.
It's your happy place. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I consider it an upgrade, and I'll say that publicly. So if you happen to be listening, Sean, just take it for what it is.
For sure.
Yeah. We'll clip this on YouTube. It is what it is. Yeah.
But I met Casey Jenkins pretty early on.
Okay.
She is someone
like
who,
a running club. Y'all run together or something?
We do run together.
That's
She's
fun.
an impressive athlete. And she, is deeply rooted in Clarksville and has grown up here. And she's introduced me to a lot of other people in the community. So she's been a really important friend of mine as well.
And what I find is, I hope I get to communicate this to my kids one day, and I'm sure I will. But what you're describing is the people who are believing most in this community are also a lot of the central figures taking action to make it what it is, right? And so almost kind of who you surround yourself with becomes the narrative that you believe about something. So if you're around a bunch of people that kind of, think negatively of the city and there's nothing to do, then you just kind of start to embrace that mindset, and you look elsewhere for your adventure and your fun. And then if you're around people who are involved in Leadership Clarksville, or they're involved in Rotary, or they're involved in this nonprofit, or they're creating new business, people who create new business or sustain big business, they believe in the potential of this town. They see all of the great things that it kind of has to offer. And so you find yourself embracing that more as time goes on.
Well, I mean, positivity or negativity, they're both contagious, right? So you pick the one you want to be surrounded by.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because you're a forward thinker, I know that there's also room for you to think, hey, this is one thing that I wish Clarksville would kind of have more of or change a little bit. And, you've had the privilege of visiting lots of towns across the U.S. I know travel's kind of an important part of your family. But what's some other things that you've seen around that you wish, like, oh, this would be really cool if we had this at home?
So like 2 or 3 years ago, I probably would have said some cool restaurants, some unique things. But I can't say that anymore because we've had so many pop up recently.
We really have.
We've got one close to our house, the Soul Press, which is has a very West Coast vibe to it, juices. So the food scene, I feel like, has really come a long way.
Yeah.
And Grant did a great job on his episode talking about that.
Yeah, you'll have to
really
go find that. I think he's episode number 30 talking about the food scene
awesome.
here.
Probably the one thing that does come up the most when I've even talked to Mayor Pitts about this, is walkability and bikeability.
Sure.
So, that I come from a very active state where everybody bikes everywhere. So I would love to be able, I live in Sango. I'd love to be able to take my kids on a bike ride to Golly G's, but I would not do that on Madison Street currently.
Yeah.
So I know
it's kind of unfathomable to me that would be a normal part of life, because it's never been a part of life for me. The only time I've spent out of Clarksville was in dental school and residency. And so even in our little 2 or 3 mile radius that we stuck with, while we were in dental school, it wasn't really a part down there either. It's like I actually had to walk home a couple times because my car was broken down, but it wasn't by choice.
Did you walk to your dental exam? Because your car got stuck in a flood or something?
I feel like it's an appropriate time. Story. Okay. So, yes. All right. So let's back this up. It's 2010, the day of the flood that flooded Opryland, Opry Hotel, Opry Mills or whatever. So what hit Opry Mills at 10 or 11 in the morning actually hit Memphis at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was the day of, I was a 4th year dental student. So you were a 3rd year. It was the day of our state license exam. And so, as you remember, it's a huge deal.
Live patient exam.
It's a live patient exam. It was like $2,500. If your patient doesn't show up, you fail automatically, and you got to pay the $2,500 again. There was just a lot of stress. Well, I think it was on a Saturday, and I get up and it's 4:30, and you've got to get your whole workstation ready, and you've got to have your patient there. It's just, there's a lot to it, and it's a tornado warning. Literally, it is just pouring. It is just awful weather. Nothing that you would want to drive in. And I was driving a 2001 Honda Accord that had about 215,000 miles on it. And I'm going my normal route, and then I take a left, and I'm in nothing but like 3 feet of water. Like, it's into my shoes. It is like into the interior. The car just shuts down. I think it was just so dark. I didn't know what it was. And so I have this moment. This is a true story. I'm not embellishing any aspect of this story. And it's a legend at the dental school because it's still told today. Yeah. So I have this moment where I call Memphis Fire Department. I'm like, I'm stuck. I'm on Jefferson. Is there any way anyone can help me? And they basically say, no, not in the middle of a storm.
Right.
You're on your own. And so I have this moment like, my patient's arriving in an hour and a half or whatever. I've got to go get this. I got $2,500 on the line. My car's not worth that amount.
Right.
So I manually roll down the window, jump out of the window, I put my shoes in my backpack, and because I didn't want to walk through all this, and ran. It was about a mile to a mile and a half the rest of the way to the school.
Were you barefooted?
I ran barefoot because I thought I could keep my shoes dry.
Gotcha.
Right? I was like, I don't want to be around in my shoes. This really got off the rails here, but it's a true story. So tornado warning, and I'm like in one of those gym bags, right? And my shoes are back there. I'm barefoot, and I'm just running through the streets of Memphis in a tornado warning.
But you made it
triumphantly. There was no way I was going to fail that exam that day. Yes.
Well, you did us a huge disservice, because it was like, if Kevin Kennedy is going to run a mile in the rain, barefooted, like, you better show up to your
This
exam.
is not legend. This is what it is.
The bar was set high from that.
Left my car there. It definitely got towed. It was not even worth the money for me to try to figure out how to get it out of where they towed it to. So it was just that was a crazy day.
Yeah.
That's a great
the legend
story.
lives on.
Yeah. So. That was 2010. Yeah. That's a good 13 years ago.
Yeah.
The only story from dental school that is actually better than that is the story of you as class president, just creating this revolution where you put the entire campus bookstore out of business.
We did, yeah. I'm a big fan of small businesses, so Barnes and Noble is not about to come in and take over. So,
long
we
story
outsourced
short.
it.
Yeah, a long story short, Candice, such a revolutionary at heart. Barnes and Noble bought the local bookstore where my class had gotten the supplies, and they came in and tried to up price Candice's class by about 20%, right? And you were the class president.
Which is all loan money that you pay back with interest.
Yeah, and you it's not money that you actually have, right? Yes. And so you said, no way, not going to happen under my watch. All of my little birdies in my, 80 birdies in my nest that I'm in charge of and take care of, you went and found another connection and got all those supplies at the regular price. And
we met in the basement of a hotel because we couldn't be on campus.
Pretty sure that lady from Barnes & Noble lost her job.
Probably. Let's move on from that.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. But nothing to say other than Candice has just a spirit of fairness and justice.
Yeah, don't mess with my little chicks.
Yeah, she will enact it on anyone. I love that. Oh, that's super funny. So, when you... let's kind of transition the story back into you've been here a couple years, you've seen kind of the positive energy that's going on. If you had to say from today, 2023 moving forward, we're hitting that 40 mark. We've still got a lot of career left ahead of us. What are some things that you look forward to being a part of and your kids getting to experience as they continue to grow up here?
Gosh, my kids get to...
Because there's a lot of them.
There is.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So I have 5. And they're still elementary school age. So, and my kids, I feel like
somebody out there is doing the math right now. 5 kids, elementary age, kindergarten, first,
a lot,
second.
right in a row.
That's a lot of kids for 6th grade.
Right. And 3 of them are Clarksville babies. So, I feel like they, they're so busy. There's so much to do for the family, but I feel like they get the big city experience. We've got the downtown development. They're going to get to go to, again, that Austin Peay stuff, but also the small stuff. I mean, Little League, Hilldale Hoops. There are so many great programs here, for families. What I really love about it is that I don't have to go anywhere. I can spend my time and my money in the city, and I can find something to occupy all 5 of those little rugrats.
Sure. Yeah.
And, I'm a huge fan. I love change. I love growth. I embrace it, which is not how everybody is. But, when I see what's going on downtown and I look at, what my kids are going to experience, and they also see, the same people in their school that they do at the ball field, that they do at church, and so there's still that close-knit community. Yeah. So it's really a fabulous place to grow up. And I don't know if they'll come back because I didn't go back home.
Sure.
But I could definitely, see them returning because it's got a mix of everything.
Well, Adonia and I talked about this. So kind of the way that my parents, taught me about the positives of Clarksville. I was the 5th generation that grew up on that horse farm where my dad still lives. So there was very much a pull of like, this is your home, your roots are deep here, we want you to come back, it is what it is. But one of the things that Adonia and I have kind of adopted is like, our biggest goal in parenting, the number one goal that we have is to parent our kids in such a way that they want us to be involved in their life as their adults. And so that doesn't necessarily have to be here. That's not necessarily the goal.
Yeah.
But what we can give them is an amazing childhood while they're with us. Mm-hmm. And I do feel like what you said is 100% true. Really, all the opportunities, all the sports, all the activities, 1 or 2 things that you might have to travel for, like if you get to be really elite or high level of involvement in things, but the base level to figure out what do you enjoy, what's going to bring your family joy, what does your family get to experience together, it's continuing to grow, it's continuing to bud here. And I think it's a great place to live.
Move here, those programs are bursting at the seams and new ones are developing, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, like we've got to talk a nerdy dental talk for just a little bit. And so I thought we'd bring it in this way, but we get to interact with a lot of the same parents. And I think we have a lot of listeners of the show that interact with us who are parents. And braces has kind of just been this rite of passage for a lot of people, right? But if you had one thing that you could kind of just say to the, general parents out there about your kind of specialty, like what you do on a daily basis that you kind of would love to give more understanding of, like, where would you lead that conversation? And this is like 30,000 foot view, big time, right?
Sure. Well, I mean, the short story is I move teeth and I make them look pretty. But
really, you do more than that.
For sure. I mean, orthodontics is a cool profession because I get to spend 2+ years with a kiddo, getting to know them and watching them grow up. I see, kids from sometimes when they're 7 to when they finish braces. It's a very relationship-based profession. It's so much more than teeth. But at the end of the day, the reason I love it is the day those braces come off and those kids smile and you see that confidence and excitement. I mean, that to me is what makes my whole day.
That's awesome.
But I also love getting to know the families.
Genuine. You genuinely do enjoy it.
I really do.
Yeah, you really do. And I will toot your horn a little bit more because this is the thing that I think continues to amaze me about what your specialty does as a whole is allowing young people, guiding their kind of overall development of their face, right? And your practice is named a little uniquely, but I think sometimes that gets misled. And I find myself having a conversation with parents of like, I mean, I don't really care if your kid's teeth are straight, they're 7 or 8, but like you've got some of these signs of growth where like, I think if you took some intention right now and maybe did some intervention, we can maybe maximize this potential in like the growth of your face to help your child sleep better, breathe better, chew and function better. It's not really just about how straight your teeth are. And I think sometimes
there's been a lot more science on that in the last probably decade or so with early development of things and how it affects your health long term. Which is exciting to kind of see for my role, in that. But it really is more than just the teeth. I mean, growth and development is a huge part of what we do.
And orthodontics in general, and I think a lot of the orthodontists here do this, but it's a ever advancing technological like realm, right? Because you've got the clear aligner therapy, which has just kind of changed the game in a lot of ways, but you're using scanners and computers and digitized records a lot more than some other industries in dentistry as a whole. So there's a lot going on
there. The technology is cool. And what a lot of people don't realize is that like a quarter of all ortho patients are adults. And I would say in my practice, it's probably close to half.
Wow.
So, it's not just kiddos anymore. There are a lot of adults that are being treated, especially with clear aligners. Sure. That's the technology, and that has come a long way. So you can do some pretty cool stuff with it.
Super fun. Well, we cannot bring up technology without mentioning the Wizard.
Absolutely.
Your husband. That's what I call, I'm pretty sure everybody calls him the Wizard because he's pretty amazing at everything. He is genuinely someone who I think has a very good handle and factual knowledge about any potential topic that you could bring up to him. So my question to you is there anything that you think you could talk to him about or have ever talked to him about where he says, I don't know?
Orthodontics. True story. That is literally the one thing.
It's the one thing.
He's like, that's your world.
No.
I can't handle it.
Okay, so that makes sense. It's because he's made some like acknowledgement of like, I don't need to know that information. That's
Which
why
is funny because he is an endodontist, so he knows teeth very well, and he knows the inside of the tooth. But
he's just made that
decision.
decision.
Don't you talk to him about braces.
That's funny. Yeah. It's like whether you're talking about the coolant system in a refrigerator.
He knows it all.
He knows it all.
When do you find time
or
to
like
learn this
how what is the best soil to grow stuff? Like how did you find that out?
Yeah.
But he is
the Wizard.
Yeah, he is the Wizard. So shout out to Burton, a great friend, someone that I can't tell you how much Clarksville is blessed by this like double dynamic duo of dental specialists that we have, because you and I both stand on the shoulders of dentists who have made this community very special. And I think in general, the dental community of Clarksville is full of people of integrity, full of honest people who, in the example of Steve Wallace, what he mentioned to you is both are blessed by the people of Clarksville, but get to be a blessing in an industry where, sometimes there's just not a lot of knowledge of what we do. And it's full of people who bring skills and knowledge and add value into the community in what I believe is a very ethical and honest way with the patient's well-being first and foremost. And I know you and Burton do that, and we're super thrilled and glad to have you both here in town.
Well, and our district has the reputation. Even before I moved here, I was told, the 8th district of dentists, we're a smaller district, but we have a good reputation of being colleagues, not competitors, and being very involved. So you're right.
And what she means by the 8th district is like where our Tennessee Dental Association divides up into little regions. Like ours includes Clarksville, and we just got some Hall of Fame legends who helped start that reputation. And I hope that you and I hope that I get to be involved in this conversation as my career goes on, but get to be a part of continuing that baton,
completely,
of caring for the people here and doing it with authenticity and integrity and kind of bringing our full self here, because let's face it, if we're not people of integrity and we live here,
right?
Like, we can't afford to rip people off.
You can't hide.
No, you can't hide.
You see those mamas and the patients at the grocery store.
They're in Publix,
which is what I love about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cause I treat everyone like I would my own kid.
Absolutely.
And so I don't ever have this like, ooh, I didn't do that right or whatever it was. So, well, I want to move on to the lightning round. This has been super fun. But I'm going to ask you a couple questions just kind of right off the top and give me your best.
Okay.
Best. So best advice to the young person coming right out of school, whether that is college, undergrad, master's degree, what would your best advice to them be as they enter into the real world?
2 things. Don't turn away any opportunity. Explore all your options because you just never know. Yes. Doors open for a reason.
Yeah, right.
So it's worth looking into even if it's not what you had envisioned for yourself. And the second thing would be find a mentor. Because getting out of school can be, no matter what profession you're in, can be scary. So
literally, you have no idea what you don't know.
100%.
Yeah, that is the biggest lesson of the 20s. Is I feel like learning to acknowledge to yourself that you don't know everything,
right?
And learning a couple things that you don't know. All right, favorite local place to save you the trouble of cooking on a school night.
Oh gosh, well I have a lot because I rarely feel like cooking on a school night. Okay, so real quickly, we love the Thirsty Goat. Pizza's amazing. Nice. Outside, the kids can run around. We do a lot of takeout from Smoke and Chicken. They have some good healthy options. We love Doc 17 Wings, Luigi's Pizza, of course. They deliver to your house. And I do some pickup casseroles from the Gingham Cafe. They have some really good like take and bake stuff.
Nice. Which pro tip, Chase Knott told me the best wings at Doc 17 are the blueberry jalapeno.
Oh, okay. I haven't
which
had
I would have
those.
never chosen.
Okay.
Tried them last time I went. A+.
Okay.
So
Well, he
shout
knows
out
what he's
Chase.
talking about.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but there's not ones that I would have picked. So
Yeah.
if you're listening,
Okay.
go ahead and try those. Tell them Chase sent you via me. All right. Favorite local event that's hosted every year?
Ooh. Well, Candlelight Ball, the big
Yeah, it's a
Austin
fun one.
Peay
Sure.
fundraiser, Clarksville Prom. That's always a really good time.
Did you call it Clarksville Prom?
It is, yeah.
You're on
As
the committee
an outsider,
too, right?
I am on the committee.
I can't believe you got on the committee. There's not too many outsiders that get on the
That's true, I
committee.
know.
So that
I'm
just
hoping to make it to the menu tasting phase of my tenureship there. We'll
okay,
see.
nice. Yeah.
But this isn't like a day event,
Yeah.
but the Clarksville Downtown Market is an event.
Yes.
The farmers market
Super
that we go
cool.
to. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It is
Yeah.
an event. There's like a petting zoo
know.
and food truck. It's fabulous.
It really is.
That's probably one of our favorite things.
So someone from Parks and Rec actually reached out to us to schedule a podcast.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
And so
cool.
I was actually really excited about that because, as you mentioned before, the person you were talking about, Parks and Rec, they just do so
I know you're going to
much.
need
They're
a double
constantly-
podcast
I probably
time
should just go ahead and plan
because
that.
there's so
Yeah.
much to talk about.
Yeah. Second episode
Yeah.
sponsored by Candice Coleman.
There you go.
All right. Who's a business leader that inspires you in our community?
Oh, gosh.
And there's no wrong answers.
Yeah.
If she doesn't say you, don't get your feelings hurt.
Well, I mean, I kind of did already mention the Knott family.
Fair
I
enough.
know
Yep.
just because of what they do. Dr. Stan, he is a
Bam.
dentist who has retired.
Yeah.
And when we first came to town, he was one that Burton especially he was kind of a mentor to us
Yeah.
in the dental field. There are so many amazing
I think that's a great answer.
leaders
though.
and
Absolutely.
business leaders as evidenced by all of the great businesses
Yeah.
here. The Cunningham family, their
Yeah.
one, Tammy is in Rotary with me, and such an amazing family with a vision for Clarksville too.
Yeah.
When I'm around people like that, starting a business is scary and
Very.
it takes a lot of faith and a lot of risk. And when you meet these folks who are just excited about it and they jump all in, it's really inspiring. So
Super fun.
hashtag I love Clarksville.
Yeah. Y'all keep going. Keep taking on that debt. We'll come and buy stuff from you. That's
Completely.
right.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you for making it to the end of this episode. I know that you have enjoyed it, getting to hear from Candice, some of her personal stories, some of our just connections that we've had over our, can you believe it's been 15-year
I can't.
friendship? Yeah, 15 plus years of friendship. I feel like we were just in dental school not too long ago and starting our career, and you snap your finger and your kids are growing up together and you're involved in supporting things together, and it's just a real honor. When I say she's one of the best humans that I've ever met in my life, I say that with the deepest sincerity, and we've had a long friendship, so it is what it is. But thank you for making it to the end of this episode. If you've loved hearing this story, just keep checking us out. Hit that subscribe button, follow, like, whatever the social media algorithm says you to hit, because I'm going to keep bringing you these stories of people like Candice and people like all of our other guests that we've had up to this point who are just making a positive impact. She's given me a couple ideas today of people that I need to reach out to hear their story as well. But thank you so much for being a part of our online community where we get to share this positive message of Clarksville all around town, and we will catch you on the next episode.